if someone else is blaming, shaming, guilting, and threatening you for not taking care of their happiness and not taking responsibility for their happiness, then this video is for you. And more specifically, you're most likely a guy who doesn't want to burn bridges and want to find a harmonious way out of the situation in a win-win situation. If you want to burn bridges, then you don't need this video and just carry on. And if you think that someone else asking you to take responsibility for their happiness, that this is normal, then keep on watching. You'll have a surprise by the end of this video and probably you'll have a deep insight. So what's the outcome of this video? So in this video, I will give you a quick solution, how to, at least strategy, the steps to follow to get the solution, and understanding how you can adapt this solution to your own unique specific situation. So it's not going to be cookie cutter method that works for everyone but doesn't work for you specifically. So it's going to be a longer video, so you're able to apply the one thing that will help you to deal with the situation in the most harmonious way and understanding how to apply it. So I'm going to teach it as well. And if you're just here for the quick answer, that one answer is non-violent communication. So if that's the only thing you want to take from this video, go research non-violent communication, follow the steps of expressing situation, feelings, needs, and giving possible solutions. So follow this framework and that will save you so much time and relationships. If you want to know more, then continue watching. And why I'm making this video is that there's so much information about codependent relationships. So yes, this is the first time I mentioned in this video that this relationship could be codependent. So there's so much information about this topic, but there's rarely or barely any information from perspective of holistic masculine point of view. So typically that would be guy's perspective. So there's so much information from point of view of feminine, the giver who's feeling abused in this relationship, and there's barely anything to give awareness to guys who are just, I wouldn't say feeling victims, but being drawn into this relationship and don't know, frankly, how to heal it, how to make it harmonious again. So this is why I'm making this video, to spread awareness to holistic masculine point of view and how to deal if you're in this in this relationship and want to get out. If you're a woman and you know your guy is not acting up and not taking responsibility for your happiness, then send him his video and might be helpful. And if you're a woman and you feel like guys should be taking care of your happiness, then know that there's something for you to heal. I'm not going to go into details, but that's not normal to ask someone else to be responsible for your happiness. It's a myth. You're able to take full responsibility for your own happiness, and other people can only amplify it or not to create conditions which make you unhappy. However, happiness is your inherent right. So codependent relationship. So typical definition is that codependent relationship is the functional relationship where there's one giver and one taker, at least one giver and one taker. So someone is giving and someone is taking. So of course it's a mismatch and not very healthy relationship. And the thing I want to point out is that it's not necessarily that, because it could be that there's this one giver who gives, and there's other person who just receives. So there's no taking from that person. However, because giver is giving and not receiving, it feels like it's being taken because there's expectation of need unmet, and basically it feels like taking when it's actually just receiving, and person is choosing, giver is choosing to see it as taking. And other point of view, it also could be that there is actual taking, demanding from other side of you. That's also very unhealthy, and the giver feels pressured into giving and doesn't see any way out. So this is also a possibility. So this video is less for those who are actually taking. This is video for more those who are just receiving and doesn't know like what's the problem in receiving. Well, the problem is that it's not a problem in receiving. It's a problem of the giver is not aware of their needs. They're not being communicated, and they're not being met. Therefore, there is conflict arising most likely. So that's one way how to see it, and that's one definition. Another definition that I pointed out in the beginning is that there is one person, in at least one, usually two, one person who is in this relationship deciding to give responsibility of their happiness to someone else. So they're not taking, that means they're not taking responsibility for their own happiness and expect someone else to take care of it. So this is not healthy, this is not normal, and this needs solution where both people come together and create an environment where both people are able to take care of their own happiness and their own needs and wants and desires. And one of the best ways how to do that is by using non-violent communication. Very simple framework. First, we just talk about what's the situation we're in. Then we express how we feel about it without blaming, shaming, guilting, or threatening other person. Just what's happening alive within me. And then we follow on to express what do we need. So why do we feel this way? Because the feeling is actually expression of the desire or need behind it. So then we express what do we need, and then maybe there's a preferred way how we would like to receive it, and that we give suggestion how would you like to receive it. So very simple framework, and just following that will give you opportunity to get harmonious solution to situation where you're being kind of blamed for not taking responsibility for someone else's happiness. And that's for definition. So before you go out and apply this framework, nonviolent communication, I really encourage you to get really clear within yourself what do you want. So what's your ideal outcome for this relationship? And it could be friend relationship, could be parent, child, could be colleague, could be business partner, could be spouse, could be significant other. So whatever the type of relationship you're in, I encourage you to spend a bit of time and get really clear what's your outcome in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So how do you see this relationship? Where do you see it going? Because depending on outcome of that relationship, your requirement to put in certain amount of effort will be different. So let's say you're in a significant other relationship. Well, you're kind of expected to put a lot more effort in there than if it's just friendship. So if it's just friendship, you just kind of like smoothen edges, you kind of say them how you feel and expect them to take care of responsibility of their own side. Just like set up boundaries and kind of leave it at that, and you don't have to see that person that often. It's more husband-wife relationship, spouse relationship, then there's more engagement, it's more ties, and you're kind of expected to put more effort in to make it work, because fact is you actually want to make it work, unless you don't want to make it. Because if you're in a husband and wife relationship but you actually don't want to make it work because you don't see this relationship going forward, so all you really need to do is come to really this clean agreement where you're separating as friends, because you don't really want to put the effort in this relationship. So if you don't want to put relationship, might as well split up in good terms as being friends. So depending where your desires are, you might need to step up your act. So that's where you start. And then after you know where you're going with this relationship and what's required commitment to it in terms of what is required from you, the next step is for you to understand why did you get in this situation in the first place. That means you taking personal responsibility for your side of equation. And yes, you will be doing that naturally by following the process of nonviolent communication. However, if you consciously understand why you're there in the first place, it gives you that edge and that conscious advantage to deal with the situation. So most likely you're in a situation because part of you actually want to be in there, because part of you wanted to resolve unmet need, desire. And most likely, that one thing that got you in this relationship is unclear boundaries. So most likely, you're not aware of some certain boundary in your life, and it could be very contextual. That means that your whole boundaries are whacked. It could be boundary with that specific person. It can be very contextual, very specific. So it could be that you don't have specific boundaries for that specific person for specific conditions, like only when it's full moon, or only when you're stressed, or only when it comes to planning dinners because there's deep wound and trauma for you not to know your relationship with cooking. So it could be highly specific, and that boundary is not clear, and you want to have it clear, healed, and universe basically encourages you to fix it for you. So it's probably some kind of boundary. And when it comes to boundaries, it's usually two things. So it's usually you not being aware of your own boundary. So instead of using boundary, you use walls. That means closing off heart, putting emotional distance, which usually leads to needs not being met in this relationship, emotional needs not being met. So there's desire to keep continuing this relationship, but there's also this lack of communication, lack of emotional engagement. So needs are not being met, and therefore emotional walls comes up, usually leading to guilt, shame, blame, and threats. And from your point of view, you create these conditions by not being clear of your boundaries in this specific case, whatever the context is, and because you don't have boundaries, person comes too close to you, it feels uncomfortable, you naturally push them away, could be subconsciously, you might not be aware of this fact, you just push them off, you close off, create emotional distance, and other person gets upset and starts blaming, all kinds of drama starts happening because you contributed of closing and not having the boundary set, use the wall instead. So that's one way how to explain what's happening to you and how you take care of responsibility. Another way how it could be happening is that because you don't have this boundary set very clearly within you, you're also not aware of other person's boundaries. So you could be unconsciously violating other person's boundary in some way and shape and form, either being too close physically, touching the person in the wrong places, or touching in person when they don't want to be touched. There's not enough communication. So somehow, some way, you're not aware of this person expressing desire not to be treated in a certain way, and you're just not aware of it. And that's something you desire to fix subconsciously. So therefore, you're in the situation where you're being blamed, shamed, guilted, and threatened to take responsibility for the person's happiness, because deep down inside of you, you actually want to be aware of this boundary, and you want to stop violating this boundary of other person. You want to be aware of it, you want to learn it, you want to respect it, and you also want to respect your own boundary. So that's why you end up in this situation in first place. So to sum it up, that you want to use nonviolent communication whenever you get guilted, shamed, blamed, or threatened, and ask for take responsibility for someone else's happiness or well-being. And you want to do it in the most kind and loving way. And one mistake I've been making myself is demanding that other person also use this nonviolent communication, which is not really part of nonviolent communication. It's a demand. It can be seen as a threat from other person. So what you want to do is start going by the list. You want to examine what happened. So what was the situation? You probably felt that you're being blamed, so there's a blame within you, you feel blame. So there was an exchange of words, there was a situation, you expressed that, then you express that I felt blame and that I need to take responsibility of someone else's happiness. You can express that, then you follow on what's the need. Well, I have a need to feel safe in this communication, so I don't feel blamed in this communication, so I don't have this feeling. And you request, well, I have the solution how we can manage to do it for both of us in a safe way using nonviolent communication. Is this something you're open? And then of course you can set a boundary. Well, if I don't feel safe in this communication, not being blamed, I don't feel safe, so I rather not have this conversation because I don't feel safe. So is there any other way how you can provide safety without, is there any other solution you see to provide safety in this communication? So nonverbal communication is a pretty good framework, so I suggest we use that. I suggest for you to know clearly where you see this relationship in longer picture, because that will determine level of commitment you need to put into this relationship. Always work on yourself. Take full responsibility for your part of the equation, how you attracted this situation into your life, and just express your own needs. So big part of codependency is requesting and needing other person to change. So there's no need for that. So all you really are concerned in communication is your own needs being met and allowing space for other person to express their own needs and desires and listening to them and respecting them. To remember that if something happened in your life, you manifested it 100%. Yes, other person contributed to it, but you cannot control that person. So only thing you can control is your own thoughts, feelings, actions, and you want to make sure you take full responsibility of them and not blaming anyone and not needing anyone else to change for this situation to be resolved, and approaching every situation in life with love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment. So I hope you found this video helpful, and subscribe to this channel, and if you have any questions, let me know. I would love to hear your feedback for next video. Have it magical.